Hello and welcome to this special Print Island episode, all about the mad, crazy world of Printing United Alliance. And I'm joined today by two wonderful guests, Joe Marin and Ray Weiss. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hi, Rich.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm really good, thank you. Busy. It's a busy time of year, isn't it, in our world? And obviously, in terms of summer and the lead up to Expo in September in Vegas, it's going to be another busy year. When does it ever slow down?
Never.
Never for us.
Yeah.
We are constantly in the midst of uh, staying on top of the industry, staying on top of training and supporting the industry, and so it's a never-ending process.
And that's part of what we're going to chat about today. Really is understand a little bit more about what those schemes are and what you guys do all year round. I know everybody thinks you just work for 3 days a year in September, but I'm fairly sure that you do a little bit more than that. And I'm guessing today, Joe, you're going to be talking to me a little bit about iLearning.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yes, for sure.
Excellent.
Um,
And Ray, despite the T-shirt, you're going to be talking about a little bit about G7 as well. We got the shirts on the wrong way around, guys.
that wasn't by design.
Brilliant. Well, listen, let's get straight into it then, because I've got some questions here that I'd love to hear, and I'm sure our listeners and viewers would love to hear as well. So, Joe, if you wouldn't mind kicking us off, and tell me a little bit, obviously, about iLearning. What is it? What's the product? What's the service? What does it do? Who is it for? That kind of thing.
Yeah, iLearning Plus is Printing United Alliance's e-learning platform. And it's been built specifically for the printing industry. So really at its core, it's a collection of online courses and certifications that help people learn the printing industry, build their skills, increase their knowledge, and at the end of the day, grow their careers. And so we serve a pretty wide audience in iLearning Plus. And that audience could be new hires, people that are brand new to the printing industry, but it also could be experienced production people and production teams, managers, designers, CSRs. So it's a pretty broad group in iLearning Plus, and we also, at the other end, we also support educators and students who are just getting introduced to the industry, so they're heavy users in iLearning Plus as well. So yeah, it's a simple platform. It's self-paced. It's online learning. People can take individual courses. They can follow a learning path and work towards certifications if they choose to. We've got a lot of companies that use it to train their teams, and in some cases, they even license what's in iLearning Plus, and they put it in their ecosystem so that they can have control over what their employees are learning. So yeah, that's in a nutshell. That's what iLearning Plus is, and that's what it looks like.
So we have something in the UK here called the Open University, and it's kind of open to all, wherever you are, whatever you want to do, and so it sounds a little bit like whichever bit of the industry you want to learn about, the iLearning platform enables that.
Yeah, and the thing that sets iLearning Plus apart from like here in the U.S., LinkedIn Learning is popular, Udemy is popular, but I think what sets iLearning Plus apart from some of the other platforms is that it's built specifically for the printing industry. And what I mean by that, that's in iLearning Plus um, is specific to the printing industry. It's built with the printing industry in mind. So, for example, there are lots of customer service courses out there that you can take on different platforms, but our customer service certification is specific to the printing industry, right? It's those conversations that a customer service representative would have with their internal staff and their internal customers and their external customers, right? So everything that's in iLearning Plus is presented with context to the printing industry, and that's what sets it apart.
Yeah, no, I love that. And Ray, you obviously loved it so much you bought the T-shirt, which is great. But Joe's done a great job there of telling us what it's for. But it's quite unique, isn't it, for an industry to create, or an industry body such as Printing United Alliance to create a learning tool that enables people to come into the whole wide world of print. I don't know any other industries that have taken the trouble and the time to do that, and unless you can tell me different.
Yeah, I mean that's the core problem we're trying to solve, right? There's a pretty big skills gap in the printing industry, like there is in a lot of other trades, and so it's really difficult to find people that know the space. And a lot of companies, they're focused on work and making money and producing print, and they don't have time or resources to build training from nothing. So we've given those companies and the industry a way to onboard and train people that maybe don't have a lot of industry experience or have no industry experience, and get them trained up.
Yeah, and that's what I love about it. I actually went through the program, Joe. You'll be pleased to know. I did not get the T-shirt. You will not be surprised to learn. But I know, Ray, you've just been out in Asia Pacific spreading the gospel of iLearning platform, iLearning Plus. Tell us a little bit about your trip. Tell us a little bit about how you approach that into a new region.
Well, so it was tied primarily to G7 Plus. So we were doing events in Thailand, Vietnam, two in Vietnam, one in Thailand. But at each of those events, I would talk about Printing United Alliance membership, and then I would focus on the differences in G7 and G7 Plus. I was just trying to introduce that concept. And then I talked a lot about iLearning Plus because we have learners. I think, Joe, every time we look, it's different, but in over 60 countries now that are taking courses on iLearning Plus. And so I just wanted to make sure that they were aware. And also, because each of the events, or certainly two of the events we did, were at universities that had printing programs, I made sure that they knew all they had to do was register with us, get their students to us with a roster, and their students could go through any of the courses at no charge, which is a huge benefit to get students into the printing industry.
Yeah, no, I agree. And Joe, it's not a new thing, I guess, for certain colleges and universities around the world to try and embed a print program into their curriculum. But I guess this is a wonderful sort of catch-all support for everybody. Have you got any interesting facts about the market space that it serves?
Yeah, I can speak specifically with the education side first. So we've currently got over 44, last time I checked, which was at the end of 2025, we had 44 schools, so I'm sure it's more than that now, using iLearning Plus. And there's over 600 students and educators enrolled, and they've taken close to 2,000 courses and certifications. And that's really part of a bigger picture, which is over $200,000 in training and value that we provided to help build the next generation. Now, total in iLearning Plus, we've got over 9,000 learners using the platform now. So it has grown exponentially since launch 3 years ago, and we're really proud of the amount of penetration we're getting into the industry, and the number of people using it from all different levels.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. And how do people get involved? What's the usual entry point? How do you find people knocking on the front door?
Yeah, that's a good question. They come from all over, and I know that Ray spends a lot of time running the platform from day to day, and we actually ask that question when people take a course. We have a survey, and we ask, where did you find us? And I think Ray can speak a little bit more to that.
Yeah, it's surprising because really almost 50% found out about it. They were referred by a colleague, which we're really happy about. I mean, because that means people are talking about it and are saying, hey, if you need training, go here. there's a small percentage, probably 15% are through email, and then we track ads in social media, 5, 7%, somewhere in that range. But really, it's referral by a colleague. We do that whole net promoter score. That's really the only question we asked them besides if they want to share a comment or how they heard about it. And we're tracking at over 80%. We're at 83% on our net promoter score. So I'm really excited about that fact.
And there's a sort of a risk embedded in the word of mouth strategy, isn't there? That people have got to say it and people have got to hear it. And so, but
Sure.
I guess in many ways now you're mature enough as a business model that those two things actually are quite natural.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's not that we don't promote it, but really having somebody else tell them about your platform is much better than me telling you about our platform while I'm wearing the t-shirt.
Yeah, that comes under the "you would say that, wouldn't you" category.
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
no, I understand. But advocacy, Joe, is such a strong part of the industry anyway. Wherever you look in any direction, if somebody in one of your peer groups and one of your fellow print businesses recommends something, people tend to listen to that, don't they?
Yeah, that happens quite a bit. And recently we partnered with a company that is they bought a, a bulk order of uh, courses and certifications for their staff. Like their staff started using the platform, and then
Hmm.
that kind of flowed upward to management, and management decided, you know what, this is an important thing, and they bought um, bulk order of courses and certifications both for their staff, but also for their customers, for their designers. So that's an example of you know a couple of staff members came to the platform, they swiped their credit card, they took some courses, and that began to expand within the company. And then management decided, hey, this is great for our company, but this is also great for our customers too, because not surprisingly, a lot of customers who buy print don't really understand the printing industry, and so they're connecting with their customers and using iLearning Plus as that tool.
It's always been that gap there, Ray, hasn't it, between what the printer knows and what the customer wants, and there's that gap in the middle that some people are afraid to ask the question, some people don't give the answer until they're asked the question, and this, in many ways, is plugging that gap, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think about, support calls, right? So why is this not working? It's usually because they don't understand how does that process work. So once they understand that, then suddenly they are a better partner. It's less frustration, less headbutting over why is this color not working, because now everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, literally, which is great. So,
Right.
and there must be. I know we're sort of painting a really happy, rosy picture of this as a solution, which it is. But there must be some common misconceptions that people have about what the iLearning platform is all about. What's the weirdest ones that you've heard, either of you?
I think a lot of people still think learning in the printing industry means learning everything on the job over years and years, which is true, right? It's what we produce is it's that's the reason why I got into the industry, right? I love to make stuff and I love to produce things and I love manufacturing, and that's what print is. So, but what we've shown and what we've been able to show is that you can actually make accessible, structured training actually engaging through e-learning, and we've done that with iLearning Plus. So if you think about, again, going back to the example because it's so prevalent in the industry, which is people that aren't that don't have a lot of knowledge in the industry who have been hired to work in the industry. Um, training typically looks like, hey, follow John around, do what he does, and make sure you don't get your fingers caught in anything. Um, but if you think about how overwhelming that is to somebody that's new to the industry, they're seeing the equipment, and they're hearing all the lingo and terminology that we have in our industry. It's very overwhelming. And what iLearning Plus does and what our e-learning does is it helps set that foundation so that when they're doing that on-the-job training, they're not hearing these terms for the first time and they're not seeing the process for the first time and they're understanding how this particular process that they see ties together. So, the misconception is I would say is that learning through learning how to print through e-learning uh, is not the best way because it's a hands-on manufacturing process when in fact it is one of the ways to learn when you tie it into on-the-job training.
Absolutely. And
Yeah,
Ray,
and can I just add, I want to add one point
yeah,
on
sure,
that
no, go
because
ahead.
I had a conversation a few months ago with someone about this. And one of the things that I said, you have to understand, we didn't just come in and say, well, we're just going to start creating learning and it's all going to be webinars. And I'm not saying that that can't be learning, but that's really not good, effective learning. But we have an instructional designer on staff who helps us look at courses and say, you know what, some interaction here might make this more engaging because you don't want someone to kind of zone out as they're just watching one slide after another, listening to a talking head. So we try to add interactivity wherever we can. And so we've hired for that purpose because we want to make sure that what we're delivering is the best that we can.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, as evidence shows us, we've established now that everybody learns slightly differently.
Right.
And we should accept that and allow for it and engage people in many different ways. Because largely speaking, and I speak from personal experience, if it's boring, people don't listen.
Right.
So you start with it being fun. This is one of the things that I think is so brilliant about the whole platform, that it engages people right from the get-go, doesn't it?
Yes.
And you're
Yeah.
right, Joe. We do speak a very strange language in the print
Right.
industry and then expect everybody to understand everything that we're saying. But this
Right.
does, and myself having been through the iLearning program, I think it's done in such a way that it encourages and educates about that language, but it doesn't just specifically use that language. So it's very much for everybody, isn't it?
It really is, and that's the other thing is it's the platform isn't only for beginners, we've got a lot of foundational courses in there, but there's a lot of experienced professionals that are also using the platform to build their skills in their area, earn certifications, and to stay current with new processes and new technologies. So, yeah, there's a little bit of both in there, and I also want to mention, just from a company side, I think a lot of the conversations that Ray and I have when we speak with companies who are looking for training is that, well, it's expensive, and it really isn't. The average price in of a course in iLearning Plus is it's about $99, and it's not time consuming. It's not going to eat up a lot of the individual's time when they're learning. Most courses are an hour or so. Some are a little longer, some are a little shorter, but the content, um, again, building on what Ray was talking about, having our instructional designer on staff is very focused and very sharp. And there's no time wasted when you go through a course. You're learning exactly what you need to know to do your job.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ray, there's not many things you can get for $99 these days that have a great deal of value. But what's your goals for 2026? What are you hoping to achieve with the platform?
Well, continue growth and 2025 or I'm trying to remember when we first started doing the expansion. I think 2024 is when I said we've got to make sure we've covered all the different segments, which we now we have at least something in just about every segment in the printing industry. And now what we're trying to do is go a little deeper in each of those. And so one of the ones we're working on is a bindery certification because I just see that that makes sense. And then I'd love to do a wide format finishing course so that we're taking somebody through. Joe mentioned learning paths. So right now you come in at Print 101, maybe you do how to evaluate and communicate color. And then depending on what your shop does, maybe you go to wide format or DTG. But I'd like there to be the next step. That's our goal, is more of those next steps. And it's a lot of work.
Well, it's classic sort of college education, Joe, isn't it? That you come in year one and you learn what year one teaches you, and then year two teaches you something new. And education doesn't just happen like that, does it? You've got to build on it layer by layer.
Yeah.
You said it perfectly. Yeah, we've got to build out, continue to build out learning paths. So when you learn the first thing, then there's a natural progression to the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing, and we're getting there. But there's another layer to this. The industry's changing so quickly that we're in a cycle where every 2 years we're refreshing what's in the platform so that there's nothing that is old or outdated in there. So while there's always a path to adding more courses and certifications, we're constantly updating what's in there to keep it current.
It's just the Brits that still do Shakespeare, then. Is that what you're saying? We'll leave that one there. Gentlemen, we've come to the end of this section. Thank you so much. We're going to be back in the next episode talking a little bit more about G7 and a little bit more wider context, really, I think, for the world of Printing United Alliance. But for now, Joe Marin and Ray Weiss, thank you for joining me here on Print Island.
Thank you, Rich.
Thank you, Rich.